Podcast New York.
What's up, Dueling Decades? This is Wax. Peace to all you guys, and thanks for having me on the show. Will it be the 90s or the 80s? Beanie Babies or Crack Babies? Will it be Nirvana or Madonna? Maybe Britney, maybe Whitney. Do you like new metal or new wave? Dave Grohl or Super Dave? I don't know. But now the battle begins. Dueling Decades. Let's see who wins.
Dueling Decades.
Broadcasting from the Podcast New York studios, it's the all-new Dueling Decades, the adult-only retro game show where the decades battle for supremacy because it's your history. We just fight for it. I am Mark James, and this week we marvel at the miraculous May Duel, where I will be competing with May of 1984 alongside the other duelers in the decades they will be fighting for. First off, swinging back to the 70s, say hello to Man Crush.
Yes, I have May of 1974, but do us a favor. I noticed nobody did it because they couldn't hear me before. But go ahead and hit the like button. I know it's redundant, but we got to do this. Hit like, hit subscribe, drop a comment, make fun of us. We don't care. The more we have, the more people come into the chat and watch this. So please do that for us if you can. But yeah, I'm coming to bat with May of 1974.
Also joining us on the panel and bringing the 411 from the 90s, it's the Professor, Drew Zachman.
What's up, everybody? It is me, Drew, from Songs Gone Wrong, and I am talking about May of 1994, which is actually when I peaked, and it's all been downhill ever since.
And as always here on the show, we need somebody to adjudicate all of this awesomeness. Back behind the bench this week is the man who is battling the Burger King and the King of Donair for the title of the one true king. He is the Media King of the North. All rise and welcome Judge Joe Findlay.
Let's have a fun game. I'm going to keep it fair. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following contest will be held under Dueling Decades rules. The judges' coin flip shall decide who picks first out of the 5 Dueling Decades categories: movies, television, music, news, and hot products. A judge's ruling will determine who wins each round, allowing the victor to choose the next available category. The first 3 rounds are worth 1 point each, with rounds 4 and 5 worth 2 points apiece. And in the event of a tie after all 5 rounds, we will go to a final wild card round. Remember, duelers, to review the show, listen, subscribe, and play along at home. It's time for more Dueling Decades. All right, so this week the coin toss will be between myself and Drew Zachman. Drew, you got the honors this week. Why don't you call it?
What are we tossing off today?
All right, well, I'm going to be tossing off. I noticed somebody said I had the lovemaking lights on, and seeing as this is a desk where I sit by myself, you're right. But today, I wanted to really bring the Media King of the North. The last couple of times I've judged, I used a digital app, and I didn't want to play that this time, so I went full Canadian, and I brought a toonie to the game.
Toonie, all right.
All right, so the Queen's head, because, you know, is heads. The polar bear is tails, because we fucking hate ourselves. All right. Okay, guys. So you're going to call it in the air, right?
Yeah, I'm totally going polar bear on this one.
Polar bear, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I dropped it.
Oh, shit.
No, we're fine. We're fine. It is Her Majesty. Heads it is.
That means
Fucking
I take
royalty.
control of the board, and I get to select our very first category. All right, gentlemen, you know what? Let's start off with the movies round.
Oh, damn.
Ooh, wow.
All right, so I am so excited I have the opportunity to select this film and talk about it. You know, we're just going to get it out of the way first. You know, if Airplane, Friday the 13th, and Grease are the Man Crush 3, this movie is definitely one of my top 3 growing up. So I wanted a little retro perspective on it. So I dug up an original review and a first impression of the film. So let's go over to the Miami Herald May 9th, 1984, for a review with the headline that says, Breakin, a happy streetwise musical. Breakin is the first of what is likely to be a wave of movies about breakdancing in its several permutations. Lockin', poppin', hip-hop, often to the narration of a DJ. And though Breakin follows the Flashdance formula as if it was blazoned in concrete and worked from a script that would make a 12-year-old snicker, it's exuberant and it's lighthearted. That works. For proper enjoyment, what you have to do is ignore the Flashdance-inspired story, which involves a series of painfully contrived plots developed when street dancers are repeatedly frustrated at the hands of Los Angeles street dance establishment. It is sufficient to treat the story as kind of filler in between the appearances of the men known as Shabba-Doo and Bugaloo Shrimp. When they are on the screen dancing, Breakin has a special joy to it, and I couldn't agree more with that. Lucinda Dickey, an actress who can dance, she's an adequate foil for Shabba-Doo and Bugaloo, but it is they who can do the floor spins and their choreographed robot walks. Bugaloo Chambers is a wonderful comic touch as well. He is in near constant motion throughout the picture, and many of his best moves are used as throwaways instead of actual dialogue or punchlines. There's a splendid spirit and presence on the screen. Though Breakin assumes a world which no one takes breakdancing seriously, one suspects that the filmmakers were last to get the word. If you can sit through this one without fighting back the urge to dance in the aisles, it's time for a checkup. So that's what they were originally saying about Breakin, and I kind of agree with them. That's why I always like the film. If you look at it, these are just a ragtag group of guys who they have nothing in life except their art, their dance. Kelly, on the other hand, she has absolutely everything, and she chooses to dance because it is just their passion. So with its May release date strategically placed in May of 1984 by Cannon, Breakin was the first to the theaters, beating the Harry Belafonte produced Beat Street by a whole month, and breaking and starting off the break dancing craze of the 80s. So guys, it's Breakin. It's May 4th, 1984.
It's a good choice.
All right, Drew Zachman, over to you. What do you have for the movies round?
All right, so I had May of 1994, as I stated previously. So this one was actually based on a TV show from the late 50s and early 60s. It was a Western comedy. I always thought it was a fun movie. Now, if you like Mel Gibson, then you probably like this movie, but you probably hate everybody else if you like Mel Gibson. But this flick starred Mel, Jodie Foster, and James Garner, who played the original title character in the TV series. And that title, in case you haven't figured it out already, is Maverick. And honestly, I love this movie. It's just like a fun flick to watch. It's about Maverick, who's a card player and con artist who is trying to collect money to enter a high-stakes poker game. And this movie basically kind of follows him along his adventures, or I guess misadventures. And Alfred Molina's in it too. James Coburn's in it. So a pretty good cast in this one. One thing I did not know was that Randy Newman actually did the music for this movie. I had no idea about that. Had I known that ahead of time, I probably would have never watched it, but I'm glad I didn't know because I watched it and I like it. So now I can actually give it a pass. It had a budget back then of $75 million and it raked in $183 million. Or Nick, in 2021 dollars, that equates to about 19.3 trillion yen. So I think it's a pretty good haul. And the film was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Costume Design. So I'm going with Brett Maverick, which came out in May of 1994, May 20th, 1994 to be precise.
Man, I wish Bo Beecraft was here, because if you listen to the episode a year ago when we had Robert Tepper on,
yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
fantastic. Randy Newman.
That was that cop show he was talking
Yeah,
about.
Cop Rock.
Yeah.
Fucking genius.
That was hilarious. I was driving home. I'm pretty sure a little pee came out when that came on. I was cracking up the whole ride.
That's
home.
just because you're getting old. That has
Well, that
nothing to
too.
do with laughing.
That too.
All right, Man Crusher, what did you bring for the movies round?
All right, so let's go to May 24th of 1974. Let me just say this, like the 70s are a different time for cinema. It's not a bad thing at all, but you have these pockets during the decade where the films are focused on one type of a movie or another. And a few months ago, I had March of 1977, back in March, obviously. And I came to bat with Airplane 77. And that was right in the midst of all the disaster films and the whole disaster film craze. But my personal favorite period during the 70s, it has to be like pre-1975. You literally have scores of exploitation movies during this period. If you could think of anything to exploit, just exploit it. I mean, there wasn't just one movie for that exploit. There would be a series of movies for that exploit. And I only bring this up because selecting a movie right here was extremely difficult for me because I had 1974. Not because there were a lack of movies, but because the amount of schlock was really hard to pass up. And Mike watched the movie today. I was going to pick this movie called The Teacher, about a teacher who seduces one of her students. I mean, I couldn't find a good copy of it. Otherwise, I probably would have picked that. With that being said, I went with a different type of popular movie of this time period, and that was road movies. So you had like Five Easy Pieces with Jack Nicholson, Two Lane Blacktop, Duel, The Getaway, Slither, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, which I could have picked here because it was released in May of 74, Gone in 60 Seconds. And honestly, there's dozens of movies that I'm leaving out here. That being said, I did go with a road film here. At the box office, this one brought in $22 million at the gate in 1974. And Drew, you'll like this one. It brought in $120 million in 2021.
It's good
No
to hear.
yen. We're going all US. So this one, it actually did get considered for an Oscar. It had some Oscar buzz around it. You had a young Jeff Bridges being nominated for Best Actor in a supporting role. Unfortunately, he lost out to Robert De Niro for Godfather 2. I mean, it is what it is. Coincidentally, this movie right here was supposed to be directed by Clint Eastwood, but they ended up going with a virgin director on this one, the writer of the film, Michael Cimino, who went on to write and direct Deer Hunter, so not too shabby on that one. Obviously, like I mentioned, Clint Eastwood, so he stars in this as well. It's probably the most relaxed role of Clint Eastwood that I've ever seen in my life. He's still got that classic Eastwood like stoicism, which you expect from him, but every time you think that he's just going to bitch slap somebody for saying something, he doesn't. But don't worry, he still throws down fisticuffs in this movie. He's not Harry Callahan, but you know, here's the other thing. Like, what 70s movie is not complete without George Kennedy? And I think this is the third time I picked a 70s movie where George Kennedy's in it. Of course, Airplane 77, like I mentioned before, Earthquake, and this one. And I think there might have been one more, but I just can't remember anymore. So if you're in the mood for anti-heroes, car chases, bank heists, cross-dressing, big guns, fist fights, rural Montana, pistachio ice cream cones, midnights at the drive-in, double crosses, guys named Red, unexpected endings, and a very, very early Gary Busey, and stories that would never, ever take place, with the inception of the interwebs, and go out and pick yourself a copy of Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. And I mentioned that part about the internet. I don't want to give away spoilers if you want to go watch this, but if they had the internet, there would be no story. It would be over in like 5 minutes. Be like, oh, that's where it is? Oh, done. But 1974. Shit's simpler.
All right, let's throw it up to Judge Joe Findlay for the ruling on the movies round.
Oh man, it's a tough one. Very different movies being kind of brought to me, and not one that was like a real like punch in the face, like huge movie. Maverick was a fun movie. I remember going to see it back in the day. Good cast. It was just that fun version of Mel Gibson that, you know, often gets overshadowed by the less fun version of Mel Gibson.
He was so happy back then.
He was so happy back then. Everybody seemed cool.
That we knew.
But
Until they took his
man, it's it's good, but it's just I don't know, like of all the Mel Gibson joints, as it were, I don't know if it's the one that gets me the most excited. And then you have Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. There's a lot of things in there. I think where you may have lost me, Man Crush, is when you said, so if you're looking for, and in your list you included rural Montana, Who the fuck's looking for rural
It's
Montana?
a road. It's a road film, dude. Where are you
no,
gonna
I
go?
know. I know. It's just very funny. It's like if you're looking for something, probably rural
Hey, the
Montana, right,
scenery is
ladies?
amazing.
But
It's amazing. Lakes,
It's-
mountains.
hey, I've been to Montana. I've been through Montana.
Have you really?
More
I haven't.
accurately. I went through a bunch of states very quickly while I slept in the back of my grandparents' van. But that's neither here nor there. I have to go with the one though that to me is the most indicative of its decade in this scenario. As like one doesn't really like just jump out to me. I gotta go with Breakin. It is the one that is it screams 80s, whereas like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, it's like it's obviously 70s, but does it scream 70s? Does the other one, does Maverick scream?
When was the last time you saw a
90s?
road film?
I've seen plenty of road films.
Fast and Furious doesn't count.
Ugh,
It sure as shit
don't
does.
don't make me puke.
That's a short road, bro.
Oh, short. And the 10th or the 9th one's coming out.
I live
Yeah.
my life.
Thunderbolt and
A
Lightfoot.
quarter
was-
mile at a
Seconds
time.
A
Yeah.
quarter mile at a time.
Yeah. See, if
For those
you
10
did that,
seconds or less, I'm free.
you did that in Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Now you've got, instead of Vin Diesel, you've got Clint Eastwood going, I live my life 275 miles at a time. Get off my lawn. That's right. I bring the impressions too.
It's only a matter of time before Clint actually shows up in the Fast and Furious. I mean, his son's in it, for crying out loud.
Yeah. He might just wander on stage.
He
Let's
might.
hope. How old is he now? Like 90? Seriously.
Oh, he's spry. He's a spry 90 something, I think.
I think he is.